My name is Diana Miller, and I'm 28 years old. I lay stretched out on the small sofa in my newly rented apartment on the east side of Atlanta, one hand holding a cup of hot tea, the other pressed to my forehead, trying to clear the fog brought on by a flood of messages. My phone blinked from the coffee table, calls from Mom, Dad, and my brother Brandon. The same three names over and over like a loop on repeat, as if one more second of silence from me would cause the phone to explode from sheer urgency. It had been 6 months. 6 months since I walked out of that house. No dramatic exit, no slamming doors, no arguments. Just silence. I packed a duffel bag with a few clothes, my old laptop, and the finance notebook that had gotten me through college, and left just as the sun dipped behind the skyline. No one noticed. No one asked where I was going. No one expected I wouldn't return. They were used to Diana, the reliable one, the daughter who paid the electric bill when Dad forgot, who bailed Brandon out after every failed job. I thought being the fixer meant I was strong, but in this tiny apartment, just big enough for me and peace, I finally understood. I had been keeping alive a system I didn't create, one that had never once supported me. The phone vibrated. Again. I didn't look. I already knew what the voicemail would say, probably Mom's voice, trembling with guilt and pressure. How could you do this to your family? If you still care about us, call back right now. But I didn't pick up. I just leaned back and exhaled. With each passing second of silence, my chest felt a little lighter. I'm a financial analyst. Full scholarship to Georgia State, top of my class. I once believed that if I worked hard, kept my head down, stayed quiet, I'd be recognized. But the truth was, the more I gave, the less I mattered. And the first time I stopped, really stopped, the phone lit up like a fire alarm. Brandon, 32, dropped out of art school, floated between part-time jobs, often unemployed. He was the one with potential. The dreamer, the one Mom hugged when he failed, the one Dad defended like a war hero. And me, the girl who never asked for help, who never missed a deadline, who paid for repairs and groceries and medication. I was the one labeled selfish when I finally said no. I remember the day I left. Mom was on the couch, eyes glued to her soap, opera. Dad was crunching numbers on a car insurance spreadsheet. Brandon was gaming in the living room. I walked past them all, bag in hand, and not one of them asked where I was going. Not one. Now, months later, they're trying to reach me like I'm the lifeline they tossed aside and suddenly need back. At 16, I got my first job. Not for spending money, not for fun, but to survive. I rode my bike to a pastry shop after school, wiped tables, mopped floors. Bought a second-hand laptop with my first paycheck just to keep up in class. No one offered help. No one asked if I had dinner. When Brandon needed a laptop, even after dropping out, Mom opened a credit card without blinking and bought him a new MacBook. He needs it to restart his life, she said. When he quit another job because the boss was too controlling, Dad said, nobody can survive in a toxic workplace. But when I got a full scholarship, their response was, Brandon might need the car. When I landed my dream job at a top investment firm, Mom said, that's far. Who's going to drive us to our appointments? I was invisible. I gave and gave, until there was nothing left of me. Mortgage payments, utility bills, roof repairs, meds, birthday money, Brandon's online classes. I paid for it all. Over $20,000 sent over 2 years. And not once did anyone ask if I could afford it. Not once did anyone say thank you. I was working 60-hour weeks while Brandon watched TV. I kept a record of every payment, every transfer, like a ledger for a client who'd never repay. But I never expected the money back. What stung was how normal it had become to them. I was the family bank, with no rights and no voice. The breaking point came one rainy Sunday. I dropped groceries on the kitchen table like I had dozens of times before. Salmon, vegetables, frozen meals. Before I could take a breath, Mom folded her arms and said, "What you're sending every month, it's not enough anymore." I froze. Not enough? Dad stepped in. "You live alone. We're struggling. Doesn't that seem unfair to you?" Brandon, from the couch. "It's not like you're lacking anything. What's wrong with sharing?" I turned to him, 32 years old. Never paid a bill, never carried his weight. "Sharing goes both ways," I said. Mom snapped. "That's enough, Diana. You're being disrespectful." I inhaled slowly, keeping my voice level. "You're calling me disrespectful because I finally said no?" She stared me down. "If it's such a burden, you can walk out that door and don't bother coming back." Time stopped. That line. It was always there, lingering under the surface, and now she said it out loud. So I listened. I dropped the last grocery bag without a word. Didn't unpack it. Didn't put things in the fridge. "All right," I said softly. "I hear you. I'm leaving." And I did. No one followed. No one begged. Just silence behind me and rain soaking through my clothes as I walked to my car. But for the first time, I felt light. The chains had fallen. I pulled into a gas station. Opened my contacts. Blocked Mom. Blocked Dad. Blocked Brandon. I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going back. Not because of pride, but because I had finally realized that kindness without boundaries only teaches people to take. My new apartment is small, 3rd floor, faded paint, noisy neighbors. But it's mine. No more midnight texts asking for gas money, no more emergency grocery runs, no more sacrificing my peace for a family that only saw me as a safety net. I moved in with 2 suitcases and an old comforter. And finally, relief. This time I chose me, and that choice saved my life. Wow, Diana's story hits like a tidal wave. It's raw, honest, and painfully familiar for so many people who've been quietly carrying their families for years without a break, without gratitude, just expectations. You can feel the weight she carried in every line. And the truth is, yes, Diana was right to walk away. Not because she doesn't care, but because she finally realized caring shouldn't mean self-destruction. Boundaries don't make you cruel. They protect your ability to still feel love without losing yourself. Here's the thing a lot of people don't understand until they've lived it. When you're always the one holding everything together, people stop seeing your effort. They just expect it. And the moment you pause, you're no longer a person. To them, you're a failure in their eyes. That's not love. That's dependency laced with guilt. She didn't walk away from her family. She walked away from being used. She gave for 10 years. That's not abandonment. That's sacrifice. And when she stopped, the house didn't crumble because she pulled the plug. It crumbled because no one else ever tried to plug in. That's not her fault. Is there a price to pay for walking away? Maybe. Guilt might linger, questions might haunt her, but those don't mean she made the wrong choice. It just means she's human, and healing isn't always quiet. She wasn't too firm. She was finally fair to herself.